It's important to understand that when you're talking about Roman law, it may be an ancient system, but it is not a primitive system. And so if you were to try to sort of compare Roman law to Roman science, if you were trying to figure out whether or not you wanted to study the theory of evolution or the theory of reproduction or the theory of heavenly bodies using Greek and Roman science, you would probably not get very far. But if you start looking at the Roman text, it represented an enormous advance in systematization of over every previous system of law anywhere on the face of the globe. And so, instead of having a series of literary texts and bits and pieces of rhetorical speeches, all of a sudden you get a fully comprehended and organized system of law. If you were to ask what's the rate of depreciation, that is how much over the last 2,000 years of Roman law has essentially disintegrated by pressures of time and force, the answer is in the areas in which the Romans' law were the masters, the rate of depreciation is probably something in the order of 10 or 15%, which means that it has phenomenal durability relative to modern systems. There are many areas where the Romans actually had a better understanding of the basic legal principles than did the modern common law. And I think the explanation for this stems from one very simple fact. At common law, the way the system tended to develop was through judge-made increments. And judges deal with cases they arise, and cases never arise in a logical order. Roman law was not made by judges. They were relatively insignificant players in the articulation of doctrine. Roman law was made by professors like me. And what they did is they managed to systematize and organize the particular field. Now, just doing a systematization doesn't mean you've got it right, but the Romans, even though their theory lagged to some extent, had this absolutely impeccable instinct about what the pressure points were and what the relevant distinctions were in various areas. In many areas, for example, if you look at Roman pleading, it's more sophisticated than modern Anglo-American pleading, and it is so not by the standards of Roman law, but by standards of modern philosophy and modern linguistics on how it is that language starts to organize itself. And if you start looking at the Roman law in various kinds of areas, for example, in its relationship to property, property held in common, property which was private, the Romans essentially had the right classification, more or less for the right reason. And so it is if you go through the contracts, torts, and restitution, it's an amazingly sophisticated system.